thank you for continuing watching policy, because we do not want to break policy, whether our own or statewide. So, thank you. You got some more?
I do. The reason I had brought up the fact of, I think I have a lot of copies of that. The reason I brought up the fact that the forensic audit was, I have looked through a lot of our contracts and so forth, and I think this is an important one to look at. I want to bring our attention to the first few. You can take a look at this with me if you want. I want to bring your attention to the first few sheets here I got stapled. This is the finance officer's contract. If you go back to 2005 and 2006, I have two contracts here, and this is what I'm trying to figure out. I have one in the amount of $54,030 for 8-hour days for 240 days, and I have one in the amount of $64,899, 8 hours days for 235 days. Both of these contracts were signed, and the dates are clearly on the other piece of paper. They were signed by our superintendent and by the finance director. So I wanted to see if we could get some clarification why we would have two contracts in the same year for looks like $118,000.
We're going to make $118,000. What are you talking about?
That's mine.
What are you talking about?
Finance director.
That's mine.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Mr. Murray. You said there were two different contracts for the same position, and they had two different amounts on them?
Yes.
Okay. But is it your contention that we paid both of those contracts
That's
in
what
one
I'm
year?
asking. There's two contracts here.
Yeah,
They're
we
both
wouldn't have paid
signed. They're both,
$118,000.
they're both, the dates are on there. This is clearly an issue, I would imagine.
Let me see. It said either one was incorrect and the one was a correction made wrong, yes.
And well, and if that's the case, then there's a discrepancy of $10,000.
Do you know which one of these, like where were these contracts filed? Like, you know, like where you got two different ones, were they both in the employee's
This is stuff
file?
I've asked for and I've gotten.
I know, but
You've got two different contracts, same year, two different amounts, $10,000 difference. And the thing that really stuck out to me here was this. The contract for the lesser of the day's work was for the $10,000 more.
Okay.
So that's very.
You know, I'm wondering if we could find, you know, there's probably board minutes, Mr. Murray. Do we have dates on these or something? I'll be happy to look into this for you, for sure.
Was that in the information that you were given for the 5 years?
I've gotten this over the time I've asked for different things.
Okay, so 2005.
Clearly, this is floating out there. I mean, where, you know, this is out there, correct? I mean, here's the contracts with the amount.
You know, I can go back and look and see which contract we paid on, and then I can go
Why
look
would
at the
there
board
be two
minutes.
contracts, though?
I don't know.
That's what I would like an answer to, is how we could have two contracts, not to mention the discrepancy of $10,000.
Right.
And the
Well, I'm just saying
contract for less days is more money, so there's.
Right, well, what we'll have to do probably is go back and look at the board minutes and make sure that, we see what happened with these, because I'm sure that they weren't both paid. And I can, if you'd like, I can go back and look. If you want me to do it, if you want somebody else to do it, we can go back and look and see.
Well, I just wanted to
Contract was
explain why I
paid
was
on.
asking for a forensic audit, because these are some of the things, and if I go further, if the board would like here, if we go to 2006 and 2007, it goes up to $66,000. Basically, from 2005 to 2006, I guess I could ask some of the older members here that's been here a little while. We've raised
more experience.
More experience, I should say. I'm sorry, Mr. Morris. You know, have we raised this position $20,000? Because that's what we've almost done here by looking from 2005, 2006 contract, and if you continue forward, you got 2006, 2007, we're at $66,000. The very next year, we're at $70,000, and I have some. That's where this came into play, the salary schedules. And what's important to the salary schedule, if you look at it here, is we go on up in 2008 to 2009, we're going on up to $72,000. We go in 2009 to 2010, we've raised all the way up to 79,000. Well, what's important to that is this. If you look at 23 years of experience, and I'm not sure how many years of experience she had at that point, our salary schedule only goes to 75,000. Now, I do know there's, I believe, some extracurricular
Yeah,
of
there's a supplement that goes with that.
$4,470,
Yes, sir.
if my memory serves me right.
Yes, sir.
Is extracurricular allowed to be on a contract in its entirety, or how is extracurricular work?
I'm sure that's probably what they did when they did this contract. It's probably including the salary schedule plus the extracurricular that's on the other salaries. There's two different salary schedules. So-
Is extracurricular allowed to be on?
It says, Mr. Crawford, that we have legal.
Oh, I mean, I don't.
Well, normally it's done in two different votes when you vote the position in, and then an extracurricular salary, if that's what you're asking for. The coach stipend and that grouping is what I'm thinking of as the extracurricular. Are we all on the same page on
Yeah, I think
extracurricular?
that's a separate salary.
Well,
schedule.
it's a vote
But they're
normally
all
by the
voted
board
the
on
same
separate
time.
ones. Now, whether it's all included in that contract, I'd have to read that contract and see.
Well, that would be the question here,
Because technically you're paying for both of them combined.
and that's why I was asking, obviously this would include the extracurricular on a contract,
I'm
79,000, because our salary
Yes,
schedule
or it's out,
doesn't.
or it's out of whack.
Exactly, so, and I guess if you continue forward here, this is what I don't understand. We're at 79,000 in 2009 to 2010. We go to 2010 to 2011, we drop back down to 75,000, okay? We're still calling it Finance Officer 1. Up to this point, we're still calling it Finance Officer 1. 2011 to 2012, we're back up to 79. We're going back and we're going 75,000 to 79,000.
That's where we cut days from people's contracts.
Well, I looked at that too, and that wouldn't have worked out because it's $4,470. It's like we're taking that curricular in and out
Well,
of there.
maybe they accidentally
We cut-
left it off of the other contract.
I believe we cut 2 days, was that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
2 days,
one
well, administrative law is 5 days.
And this is-
Administrative law is 5 days.
This is when, and this was my other question, if you could answer this, Mr. Crawford. We had finance director all the way up till 2012 to 2013. At that point, we started calling it finance, and then there's another contract for $4,470 that is, let's see. We start splitting the name up. Basically, we're calling one finance, and we're calling the other one director 1 now. And she has to work for $4,470, she has to work 0 hours per day for 20 days. There is no difference in any of the job description whatsoever. The job description has completely remained the same.
You know,
That is
Mr.
how it
Martin?
has to be set up in Munis.
Yes,
Okay.
see,
That's how it
I
comes
think what
across
I'm trying to,
When
yeah.
you set it up in the financial system.
See,
You
So
have
we
to set it
split
up
the-
that way.
That's, I guess my question is, it's confusing as me looking at all this. How
Right.
does it go back and forth we're calling it finance director 1, then it goes, we're splitting it up finance/director.
Well, what happened, I think in here, from there to there, is at one point we did change the job descriptions when we got rid of the payroll person's position, and we changed all the positions around. But the other thing is, I'd like to look at all those too, because what happens is when they're doing these contracts out of Munis, it pulls numbers from what it has in the system, and it may not be, the person who set up this contract, it's like a Word thing, and it's a Word document, and it pulls financial information from the Munis system into the Word document. So I'm wondering if at some point that whoever selected the Word document items to go in here did not select the correct items. Like this job title and everything, that's basically that's a spot in our employee master directory. And so it pulls whatever it says right there. Like that might not be her technical title, but that's what it says in Munis, because we have salary schedule set up in Munis, and they're called different things. It's like a 1, 2, and 3, direct 1, direct 2, athletic 2, and
So
whatever.
Munis has changed again in the last 10 years?
Yes, it always changed, like, we've gotten 3 or 4 different versions, and actually, we're getting ready to go to.
And that's why
another
we'd be
version.
pulling something back here and pulling something different here.
Yes, that's absolutely possible. Because
And as a
I
board-
believe this is probably the salary schedule name that is in Munis that shows that whole number going down. The way it works in payroll is you have to set up all these salary schedules in Munis, and they each have to have a unique identifying name, and their naming convention is different. It's like, you know, athletic director, it might be ATH1 or whatever, and that's what it says, and that salary schedule is in Munis, and then when Linda or whoever's making the contracts pulls over the job title, it only gives you certain things you can pick from. And so
Understand.
it has to be what's in Munis.
Understand.
So,
May I ask a quick question here?
Sure.
Mr. Crawford from contract law passed that 1,000 years ago, so it might be stupid. The contract has to have 2 sides before it counts, right? We give you this much money, but you don't do any work as a contract. From a legality standpoint, not that she didn't earn the money, from a legality standpoint, is that a legal contract?
If you don't do any work for it, it's
It
not.
says 0 hours for.
Well, first of all, if you don't do any work in a state situation for state dollars, it's a real problem.
That's what I'm saying. From a legal point of view, is that contract legal?
No.
It says no hours and no work. It's not legal.
Both sides have got to live by the.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
right.
So in other words, that contract's not a good contract.
Well, now, I don't want to say that. I mean, I answered a hypothetical question. I don't-
You are a legal attorney.
Well,
You're
I
seeing
realize,
0
well, I
hours.
see that, but I'm just now seeing it for the first time, and I want to understand completely what's happened here to give these different numbers. And I haven't understood that yet. I'm
Yeah.
listening to what everybody's saying.
And
How does the
Mr.
numbers
gotta
go
look
back
at
and
it.
forth?
Well,
How are we
I-
going
you know,
from
Mr. Murray,
79,
I'm
75?
not really sure how the contract was set up in Munis when they did the Word document. What I can do, if you would like me to do, is go back at the finance officer's salary schedule and the salary schedules that were approved by the board, and then actually what we paid her, and make sure, because I'm not sure that the contract, it may not be, it may have a mistake in it. And
My
what
biggest
the
concern
salary
is-
schedule
The
that's
district
approved by
director
the.
that you see on there is the same salary schedule for every director that's in there.
Understand.
It is on the extracurricular
Exactly,
salary
exactly.
schedule.
Fourth-
If you was to pull up a contract for them, it would come across the same way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're not gonna make any action on this tonight. Let's
Yeah.
let these folks look at it.
Yeah.
Put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to look into this, because I'm thinking, see, even the job title classification number and this number right here that comes in, that all comes straight from Munis. It's a word perfect thing, and
Do your research, we'll put it on the agenda,
Yeah.
we'll
I
ask you
think
questions.
so.
We'll give Mr. Crawford time to look at the contracts too.
yeah.
And go back to the initial point of the conversation this morning, which was.
Because it could
Forensic
be that
Audit.
we just need to fix the way we're doing the.
Okay, Pam, have you got what Chad, the contract, do you have got what you need?
I don't know, because I don't know what ones he has in there.
Yeah, and there you
Oh,
go.
yes, thank
And
you.
now you got,
Yes,
you
yes.
got the master
Okay.
copy of
I'll
that.
be happy to look at
Chad,
this, Mr. Murray, for you. Try and figure out what. And you're more than welcome, Mr. Murray, and since I, will work for the school board, I work for you all, and if you have questions about things like this, I would be more than happy to look them up for you and try and figure out, like if you wanted to bring this to the board meeting tonight, I can go do that for you. Like, I can look this up and figure out what's going on, I would be more than happy to. Because I always, I feel like pretty much my job working for the school board is to give you all the best information that I can give you and let you all make decisions that you need to make,
Well,
so.
Catch you off guard, look it up, get us answers for
Yeah,
this meeting.
yeah, yeah, I would
Mr.
be
Crawford
more
has a
than
chance to look
happy
through it
to
and see
Yeah,
if the
send me,
contracts are legal.
send me an email with the copies too, so I know what we're talking about when we both.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
definitely want to
Yeah.
make sure we get some explanation on the 2
Sure.
contracts in the same year.
Yes,
Why
I
why there's
definitely-
even 2 contracts for 118,000.
Yeah, because I don't know where these contracts came from, like if they were both in the same, maybe it was an old one that, I don't
We just
know.
want to make sure we're doing things legally.
Yeah.
I'm sure what we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
find too, I know back when Curtis's grandfather and I served on the board, our budget was probably $2 million, and now it's over 14 million, So I'm certain that we're gonna find a year where the board caught up or maybe gave
Yeah.
for performance a increase your contract and perhaps gave more than the raise for the particular job than the average employee may have got.
Right, and
Yeah,
I agree.
there was a couple of times they adjusted salary
From my
schedules and
memory,
all that.
an
Yeah,
adjustment.
we did. The
I
school
think
board
so,
did.
but I think we're not gonna be able to solve this tonight, but I think there's a research we need to do.
Right, yeah, let me go ahead and look at it, I'd be more than happy to, Mr. Murray, I'll look into all of this and then Mr. Crawford can look at also, and we'll make sure that we are looking, and I guess my main concern too is not just the contract, that would be Jim's concern, but my concern is to make sure that I'm looking at the salary schedules that were approved by the school board and what we paid, and to make sure, because that in my situation would be the most, important thing that I think we need to look at is to make sure we were paying properly according to the salary schedules that were approved by the school board at the time.
One other question I had just concerning this real quick.
Sure.
Well, I know Ms. Perkins had stated once before, I think there was a 2 or 3 year stretch, no raises whatsoever. Is that correct?
Other than steps
Was there
increases.
there was step increases?
Yeah, we always get
Is
step
that
increases.
what I'm seeing, the 1% increase? Is that the step
No,
increase? Or is
that
that
would
would be
be
separate
a
than my
raise
salary
in that,
schedule?
you see, like, 13, 14, this current year, you all requested a 1% increase in salary. So, on here, like the zero, see where like the 0 to 1, there's a difference of about 70 some dollars or whatever. That's your step increase, and that's automatically in every salary schedule. And then if we do like a 1% raise, then we take everything that's on the salary schedule and increase it by 1%.
The only reason I say that, if you could explain also in those contracts, I gave a 4% increase on each year, and it was always way more than 4%. And I never seen in the history of the board where we get more than a 4% raise. So if we could look at some of those numbers also.
Yeah, and that might have been like Mr. Morris said, that things, we changed around positions and things like that, and the school board adjusted some of the salary schedules. But I'll give you that information also.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure I
Look forward
find all
to-
the board, I'll find all the board meeting minutes and stuff and go back and look and see if we can find it.
We'll look forward to your report on the next meeting.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you for
You're
your
welcome.
time. Forensic audit.
The forensic audit, I would just like, at least at this point, if we could put out an RFP on that, just request a proposal on that, and as a board, be able to at least look at the numbers to see what it would cost for us to do a forensic audit.
Let's discuss.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Do you understand what exactly a forensic audit is versus like an operational audit?
Yes, I do.
That's different than a financial audit?
Yes.
Okay, because that would be more, and if you have, usually you bring forensic auditors in if you have found evidence of fraud, and then they come in and they determine like how much or what it was or any of that. So I'm just wondering, is that really, are you asserting there's fraud in the school
I am
district
not
and you want
asserting
them
anything at
to?
this point. I think that we're doing our job as board members and making sure.
Okay, so you're not asserting that there's any fraud going on, you just want a forensic audit?
I have my questions when I see contracts like that. When I see a
Right.
top 2 contracts, I'm not throwing out to anyone there's fraud at this point. I have not said that. Those were your words. I'm asking questions
Well,
at
that's what a
this point.
forensic audit is,
Well,
that's why I was just
I
wondering what
think we
your,
should look at.
okay.
That's what I'm asking is for an RFP, and that was asked to the board.
Well, okay, and I would
If the
submit
board
that
could
a mistake
take a
on a
look at that.
contract wouldn't designate fraud in itself, so, if
Agreed.
there's,
We're just supposed to discuss it and see what everybody thinks.
that's your opinion.
It's, and we talked to some people that had them, some supporters that had them, and some benefits, and not fraud, but some benefits, they thought they were actually saving some money in some cases. The other side is we spend $15,000 or $18,000, and we'll be great, and we waste $18,000.
But see, I'm thinking that's more like an operational audit that you want. I really think, Mr. Murray, you might want them to look at all of our operations and internal controls and all of our financial things, because number one, I'm thinking a total forensic audit is gonna be very expensive, but,
Districts of our size is going for about $15,000.
yeah, $15,000 is just quite
Which, I
expensive.
mean, we paid $24,000 last year for a regular audit, and other districts of our size is paying 13 to 15, so
Right, but I'm just saying, if you don't, I mean, that's $15,000, you could probably get an operational audit for $5,000. It would tell you if you're overstaffed, it would tell you if you're spending too much money on your salaries based on everybody else, it would tell you if you're, you know, that's just my opinion. I'm sorry.
Statement.
Please.
We have discussed this, and now we're beating a dead dog.
I agree.
Sorry.
It's not even on the agenda, so there's no point in arguing
discussing
this
this
right
point.
now,
Right.
or discussing.
No, I was just
So there's no
explaining
need,
the
I mean,
difference.
just cut it right now,
Right.
because it's done. We've got it on the agenda to discuss.
Right.
That's the time to bring up your questions and. so
Oh,
forth.
okay.
And then this time I will reach over to Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris, you've been doing this for a long time. What are your thoughts?
In talking about an audit, is there a certain department, or if it can be limited to one area? Are you thinking that would be?
I'm not sure at this point, and that's the reason I just want to start a discussion. I'm asking that we take a look at I've seen some things, and you know, I want to make sure, you know, it's kind of like this, and I'll throw this out there. I kind of call it, you know, a lot of people call me and complaints. And, you know, I don't bring every little complaint I come in here with, but when I find contracts like that, 2 contracts, and then the discrepancies we just sat here and talked about, you know, I look at it like this. It's also one of those things of moving things forward. You know, I think we all know this community for a long time has had their doubts and made their comments. And I look at it a few different ways. I look at it as, hey, if we do this, everything comes back and we're in good standing, that's a step in the right direction for us. We can all move forward and you know, it costs us $15,000 to make sure we're all doing everything right. Even as a board myself now, you know, I want to make sure we're doing things right. I want to make sure, you know, that later on down the road it's not going to come back to something we've done, you know. So I think it's a step in the right direction all the way around. You know, it's something we can look at our community even also and say, look, this is what we had done. This was done in 2014. We found no wrongdoing whatsoever. The accusations out there and so forth, it's not substantiated. You know the word I'm trying to say.
Public relations, you're saying.
Exactly. I think it's you know, I'll be honest with you. I come in here a lot and I bring up stuff. You know, if you guys think that I enjoy sitting in my office working on this stuff constantly, I have a lot of other things I'd like to do.
And we appreciate your work. Mr. Crawford, you've been involved with the degree, or with a board that's had a audit come in?
No, not a forensic audit. No, I haven't. I mean, that's the only answer I can give you.
Are they typically only done when fraud is suspected, to your knowledge?
Yes, generally. And again, I would think the cost would depend upon how many areas you're going to expect them to come into. Now, I've been involved in forensic audits for banks many times. They are expensive, but in a forensic audit for the bank, you go into every single area because you found some fraud, and now you're concerned that your whole system has got problems, so you do a total bank forensic audit. And it's different than an operational audit, completely, and it can be quite expensive. So what I would suggest, you all asked some questions evidently down at the State Board of other directors. You know, maybe we can make some telephone calls and see if people have done them and at what cost and what areas, and then have a more discussion about whether you just want certain areas or you want.
Is there another word, maybe a supplementary audit? Or
The one now?
The reason I feel some Mr. Murray here is we've had the same auditor for so many years in a row. It's uncomfortable. It's not the way it's done in regular business. You switch your auditors out. Maybe it's not a forensic audit. Maybe it's just a supplementary audit. Just somebody else come in.
Well, you're going to get that answer when, you know, you're going to now bid it out.
Right,
so
right.
Presumably, you're going to get a different auditor. So that's going to give you your operational audit. That's going to tell you your income statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow situation, which you've been getting. A forensic audit goes in and looks at processes and procedures and sees whether there's been, and you're generally looking for fraud. I mean, you've got some inkling that there's a problem in this area or that area, and you go in and really clue in on it. The auditors do.
Ms. Giles, you've had a lot of experience in this board. What are your thoughts?
I'm not comfortable saying let's do a forensic audit because the 12 years I've been here, I don't think we've tried, I don't think there's been any fraud. I mean, I understand, Chad, where you came up with the two, different things. If we can get that looked into and see what the answer to that is, but I'm not one of the Forensic Audit.
It's this board's choice. I think my recommendation would be, and again, not my choice, my recommendation would be to do some research, and then come back and put it on the agenda for next meeting, then we'll vote for it. RFP then.
Or if we can get some additional data, you know, like we're looking at.
Yeah, I think we've talked to people, and I talked to people while I was out there too, so the question, I went through a lot of financial classes, Becky said a lot of financial classes, a lot of questions about policies and procedures and double checking and getting caught in ways of doing things the same way for 20 years, and it's actually wrong, because it's not the same way. So, I see Mr. Murray's point, so my thought, and just my thought only, would be that let's do some research and make this a top agenda item.
Talk about that next meeting as well.
Everybody on the same stuff? Okay. Let's see. Mr. Murray, anything else?
That'd be all, thank you, sir.
Citizens and delegations.